will be on mute today. We're going to miss all that then.
Okay. Yes, Mataji. Thank you.
All right. So let's see. Are we broadcasting? Are we? Are we? Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay. This is good news. So let me get started here in a minute. Okay. So we'll get started. Thank you so much for joining the call. And let's start with a brief prayer to the special master. Om Ajnanatimarandhasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, so we are doing Bhagavad-gita, chapter number 4. And chapter number 4 is all about what?
Transcendental knowledge.
Transcendental knowledge.
Transcendental knowledge. Very nice. Okay, so I wanted to kind of do a little bit of, we are coming to the end of this chapter actually. Today's verse and then one more, and we would have completed chapter 4.
Yes.
It took about 1 year to do it.
1 year, yeah.
Yeah, to do it, but we did it. And so let's do a recap of chapter number 4, and we'll go through some of the things in chapter number 4 first, and then till we hit our verse, which is 41. So that's quite a big list of verses. And so this was about transcendental knowledge. And so where in this chapter does Krishna start talking to Arjuna about knowledge? About transcendental knowledge? Where in chapter 4?
The fifth, of course, I saw from the Bhagavad-gita.
Fifth
Bahuni
onwards.
me vyatitani janmani tav Arjuna tanya aham veda sarvani na tam vedat parantapa.
Okay.
Many births
Anybody?
both you and I have passed, and I can remember all of them, but you don't remember them.
So the question was that where in chapter 4 does Krishna start to talk about transcendental knowledge?
I think in verse 10, Shraddha Mataji,
In verse 10.
because there he says that when you're freed from everything like attachment, fear, anger, and then when you take shelter, his shelter, and then
So let me phrase the question again. So I'm asking that where in chapter 4 does Krishna refer to transcendental knowledge? Not necessarily explain what is transcendental knowledge, not necessarily that, but where in chapter 4 does he talk about, begin to talk about? Where in this verse does he starts to refer to transcendental knowledge?
It says whenever and wherever this is decline in religion practice, so the prominent rise of religion.
So what verse is that?
4.7.
4.7. Does he say anything about transcendental knowledge before 4.7, or are we settling for 4.7, or are we settling for 4.5, which Vaishana Mataji said, or we are sitting on 4.10? Where in chapter 4 does he refer to transcendental knowledge?
Or this one is again evam parampara praptam.
no.
And what verse is that?
2, 4.2.
3 actually, 4.
2 or 3?
2.
2.
Yeah, 2 is evam parampara praptam. And
Okay.
3 is sa evam mayate dhyaya.
All right. Since you're already on 2 and 3, so then what about 1?
Oh, in 1 only he does.
Does he?
You want us to go back to Imam Vaishvasik Yoga.
Oh, from the parampara, how it came down. Of course, we
Yeah.
all are not knowing. Yeah.
Right. So he's
Yeah.
saying
Being
he's
able
referring to this when he says that I instructed this imperishable science of yoga. Right? The science of yoga, and what is true yoga? Yoga means to? What is the meaning of yoga?
concentrate.
Union with God.
No, the science of your relation with the Supreme.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That
yoga
when
means to
connect yourself
To
to
connect.
Krishna.
connect.
Yeah, yoga means to connect. Yuj, yoga, it comes from the root word yuj. Yuj means to connect, right?
Hmm.
So you can connect with anything. Can you give me some example of connections?
Sun god to Vaishwan and Vaishwan
Okay,
to
so there is a connection
Manu.
because of the
Manu.
teaching. So disciple-student connection, you're talking about that. Okay, what other connections are there? Have you heard of connections? Have you used the word connection ever in your life?
Yeah. Many
Krishna and
times.
Arjuna are
Many
connected.
times.
Krishna and Arjuna are connected.
Never used the word connection?
No, we use it so many times,
So
Mataji.
much,
I
yeah.
mean, like, with our friends also. I'm connected with the views with her. She's,
Okay.
we are alike, something like
Okay.
that.
So the connection can be through because of some sort of a relationship. It could be a body, it
Arjuna
could
and
be a
Krishna.
relationship coming from body, it could be a relationship coming from activities that you do, that you are connected by a teacher-student relationship. You could be connected because you are in the same team, right?
Yeah,
And
Arjuna and
then there is connection because of knowledge. The people say, na, unke bahut bade connections hain. He knows the chief minister, right? That is connection. And then you say, I can't hear you properly. I think there's something wrong in the connection. All right. So we use about connection. So there is connection. So what is wrong about the connection? Then my voice is not getting connected to the other person's ear, right? Through whatever mechanism that I'm using. So that connection is not being established. So there are different ways in which you can connect, right? And like you said, the connection in thoughts, we think the same way. So our thoughts are connecting. But what is the best connection that you can have? The best yoga that you can have is that when you connect with
Krishna.
Krishna.
right? So he's saying that this imperishable science of yoga. So he's starting right from the first chapter of Bhagavad-gita, where he's talking about that I have explained it, right? And in the beginning also, he's talking about the fact that to earn or to gain transcendental knowledge, you need a teacher.
Guru.
You need a teacher to explain that to you. So he's saying, see, I explained it to him and I explained it to him. And now because you have surrendered to me in chapter 2 and said, I'm a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me, right? So, yes, and I saw the text just now. So Ankur had said that in the text number 1. Yeah, you're right, Ankur. Good. So he so the best connection that you can make there, and he's saying that you need a teacher, and he gives the example that I instructed, right? And then also he then goes and tells that, well, what happens to this knowledge and this process of imparting knowledge? What happens to this process is that this process can get contaminated, right? By the teacher not faithfully representing what he was taught by his own spiritual master. So he has emphasized here that there is an importance that we have to maintain, right? And then he's slowly bringing in also the concept of immortality and eternality of Krishna, when he says that I instructed this to sun god Vivashna. And of course, Arjun, from his background, knows that how old sun god Vivashman is, that he's been there for since times immemorial, actually, but it's what seems to be a very long time to us. So he knows, and then Krishna is here. So he's asked that question, that how could you instruct it to him? And then Krishna is talking about rebirth and the hints on transmigration of the soul, that many births you have taken and you don't remember and I remember, like that, right? So he brings that to him. And then he says that, okay, so I told that to sun god Vivashwan and I'm telling it to you. And then he tells the verse that Vindhyavali had come, where she was saying that whenever there's a decline in religion, I come here, right, to establish the religion. So how will you establish the religion? Yeah. So how will you establish the religion? You will establish the religion when religiosity is all lost and it is all gone, right? So when there is a decline in religiosity, then he will come. Why does he come? To give the knowledge of dharma again to people. So again, he's talking about knowledge. So chapter number 4 is very, very heavy into knowledge. And then about the knowledge also, he's saying that ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sathaiva bhajameham, that verse, right? So accordingly, as much as you surrender, as much you will know. So you will gain from Krishna. And as much as you surrender, you will gain the right knowledge, and he will put you on the path accordingly. But if you are stubborn, we want to just keep going around in loops, then it'll take us forever to go back to Godhead. And Krishna is fine; he's detached. He has given us a free will, and so if you want to do it that way, so he says, "Okay, do it that way," like that. So he's talking about,
he says, "Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya chatushtam."
Verse 8, yeah.
Verse 8. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So he's telling about that ye yathamam, as much as you are surrendered unto me, in that proportion I will give it to you. So this is also a very important thing, that as you are trying to learn from a spiritual master, in the beginning it is we will have doubts. We could have doubt on Bhagavad-gita, we could have doubt on the spiritual master, we could have doubt on Krishna also. Does Krishna really exist or not? Does God really exist? Sometimes we are like, we see so much of bad, so-called bad happening to people, and we might think that, does Krishna really exist? How can Krishna tolerate all these nonsense that is going on? So people can go that, and so as we progress in devotional service, your faith also increases proportionately, like that, right? So ye yathama prapande, this is the more your faith is there, the more surrendered you will be to Krishna, right? And the more surrendered that you are, the more knowledge you will also get. So there's an interesting thing that is there about how this information is transmitted, right? So then he also goes upon and talks about a little bit about the karma part of it, that there is work, and people do the work. And how do they do the work? They do the work according to the nature that they are associated with, right? So if you are in the mode of passion, you'd like to do administrative work, you like to join the army, and you like to be a policeman, like that, right? If you are in the mode of goodness, and you like to pursue, more intellectual activities, you'll be calm and quiet, like that, right? And if you're in the mode of ignorance, you'll be a lazy bum, won't want to do anything, or get drunk and fall down in some gutter, like that. So depending on the mode of material nature we associate with, people will try to do work. And then Krishna also then talked about work and karma, akarma, vikarma, like that. And he also talked about reactions. And he says it's very difficult to understand karma. So one thing to understand, to keep in mind here, is that in Sanskrit language, we use the word karma, right? We use the word karma for two things. Karma is work that you do, that's also karma, right? And then the reaction to the work that you do is also karma, right? So depending on the context, we have to pick up the right meaning of the word karma, which is there. So then after explaining all that about karma, so then he says something very interesting. And he says that, so there is knowledge, you're gaining knowledge. And then how do you understand that a person has gained the right amount of knowledge that she's supposed to get, right? Like you're doing exercises, so you get the six-pack abs, right? Okay, some man might think, okay, now I have reached the climax of whatever my goal was. I've reached my goal of being bodily healthy or well-built, right? So when it comes to knowledge, how do we understand that a person has reached, knowledge, he has got the full knowledge? So when a person, it's a very interesting thing that he says that when a person reaches full knowledge, we know that a person has reached full knowledge when all the actions that he does are devoid of sense gratification, right? Now it might look like, oh, fine. So we are doing, I try to do well, I make food, I cook, I give it to Krishna, and then I eat it. I eat only prasadam. I'm doing no sense gratification. we might think like that, but the sense gratification and the feeling of gratifying ourselves. And it is there in us because Krishna is a pleasure seeker himself. And we are parts and parcel of Krishna. So we all come from Krishna, right? In the 15th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Mame vansho jiva loke. So we are all parts and parcel of Krishna. So because we are parts and parcel of Krishna, he has an enjoying tendency. So we also have an enjoying tendency in us, right? But the thing is that he doesn't enjoy material things. He only enjoys spiritual things. But we tend to enjoy material things as well. Right? So that is the difference that we have. So when a person gets devoid of this tendency to enjoy, and for example, I might sit down and to eat prasadam, right? And so prasadam can be had in several moods, right? I can have a prasadam like, oh yeah, yesterday was Nityanand Trayodasi, so there were good gulab jamuns or gud ka rasgulla or whatever was offered in the temple. So we can enjoy and say, okay, or you sit down and start to eat the sabji and you say, oh, there is less salt. I don't know what the devotees did today. Bring me some salt and I'm going to put the salt in here. Now, enjoying tendency has come. So you see, the food that Krishna ate without complaining, that food is not good enough for us. So we have to embellish it and we have to add. So that's why they say when you're offered prasadam, you don't embellish it with anything else, right? Now, sometimes in the temple, you will see that when a large amount of bhoga is made, and before it is offered, they will ask some devotee in the temple to taste it before they serve it to the masses, right? So then the question is like, why do we have to taste it? If the food was bland, if the salt was less or more, why do we have to taste it? It's prasadam. Everybody should, take it. But the one thing to keep in mind is that temple is a different situation and a condition, right? All kinds of people from all kinds of life and at different levels of progress in devotional service come to the temple. So somebody very new might not be able to relish the fact that this is a remnant from Lord Krishna, and no matter what it is and how, whether it's tasty or not, whether it's salty or not, whether it's perfect or not, I'll still relish it and take it as prasad from Krishna, right? People at that level are very rare. And in a temple, we would like to, and in any place of worship, we'd like to attract the devotees, right? As much as possible. So that's why you'll see that sometimes they will embellish the prasadam in the temple, but ideally at home, we should not. Or sometimes for the kids, we will do it. Otherwise, the kids will rebel against the prasadam like that. But what I wanted to just mention is that there is a tendency to enjoy. And once we start getting that knowledge that there is this tendency to enjoy, you'll start observing it. You'll start observing ourselves. We'll start observing ourselves, that how we are indulging. And, when we take that extra helping, the mind will tell because the knowledge is now there that, hey, you know what, this now food eating for nourishment is over. Now this is overindulgence that is happening there. So a true barometer of a person who has full knowledge is that whatever he does will be devoid of the desire for sense gratification. That's very, very a very, very important verse to keep in mind. So then comes the question that we are talking about a person being in full knowledge, right? A person being in full knowledge. So now, do you want to have full knowledge or not?
Yes.
You would like to have full knowledge, right? So then the question is, how do I get full knowledge? Right? How do I get full knowledge? So we had
faith.
Yeah, faith will get knowledge. And then, so we had talked about that. And as a recap, I'll just bring this up again. This was from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter number 2. We talked about that, divinity and divine service, some of the very famous verses from there. Do you remember?
Yeah.
While I bring it up. From where did it start? Shushu. Shraddha-dhanasya, right? Okay, let me bring up the verses and we'll go through that together. Chapter number 2, divinity and divine service, is a very, very important verse of a chapter from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this, let me share my screen here and we'll go through this together. Okay, it starts with the 16th verse in the second chapter, where it says, Shushusho Shraddha-dhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mehat Sevya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishemana. And so what it is saying, it's saying that O twice born Brahmanas, as Sud Goswami is telling to the sages in Naimisharanya, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. Right? So what do you have to do?
Serve the
Worship.
devotees,
Serve which kind of, yeah, which
pure
kind of,
devotees.
yeah. By such service, one gains affinity for learning, hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So first thing is that you should have that affinity, Vasudeva Katha Ruchi. You should have the desire to hear Krishna Katha, right? So if you are getting that desire to hear Krishna Katha, this means that definitely your devotional service is increasing. If you're not going and listening to Krishna Katha, and now you started coming and sitting in a class and listening to Krishna Katha, this means your devotional service is definitely on the increase. Okay, so, and then how will that happen? This is such an interesting thing, that this affinity to hear from pure devotees of the Lord will come from serving the devotees. And you might not know. It can happen in so many ways. It can happen in to so many different degrees, right? Because seva can also be done in 2 different degrees, right? You could give a car ride to a Mahatma, right? That's seva. And because a Mahatma is very powerful, right? So the effect is going to be pretty powerful on us. Or, somebody might just go and say, well, let me do the accounting for some Maharaj, right? Or let me do some accounting for a temple free of cost. I'm an accountant. So they do that. So this is all, they are all doing seva. So seva doesn't necessarily mean that you have to cook and clean and press the legs and things like that. Seva can be done in so many different ways. You're a computer scientist and you create a website, or you create some computer program, or, do research on compare software that should be used.
Learn from you. You
Yeah.
are
So,
doing seva.
yeah. So all that is actually is seva that you're doing. And that will lead to a desire to learn. How that happens is a very interesting. It is a very different to understand, right? So you be there and you serve them, and then they will be happy. And when they'll be happy, when pleased with you, they will give you the knowledge, right? Where do we hear about the fact that when we serve them, they'll be happy and they'll give us the knowledge? When you serve them, they'll be pleased with you. You have to serve them. They'll be pleased with you. You ask them questions humbly, and they will give you the knowledge because they have.
Tatvidhi pranipatena.
Exactly right. And what verse is that?
420. 424? No.
434.
434.
434. Right. So I understand it like that. For Guru, G-U-R-U, 4 letters here. And then 3 letters in U, Y-O-U-U, and then 4 letters Guru, right? So you have to be surrounded by the Guru if you want to survive in your life. So Guru, and U, 4.34, Tadvidhi Paripatina, right? So they will be happy with you and they will give you prasad. They will give you their Mahaprasad. So the interesting thing about eating prasad, very interesting about eating prasad is that we say that, people, we sometimes overindulge. Right? And our Guru Maharaj tells us the story of 92 gulab jamuns or 72 gulab jamuns, right? So the thing is that if prasad is there, and sometimes, like when you were sitting in a lecture in a class, and smell from the kitchen comes into the classroom, and you smell the nice ghee, and somebody's frying puris and something nice, and then there's a desire to enjoy, and you're like, oh fine, yeah, once the aarti is over, then we'll be served prasadam. So that longing is there, and then we, they give us heapful in a plate, and then we eat it and we enjoy it. So there's that enjoying tendencies there. But just now we said that a person in full knowledge is one who's devoid of any sense of knowledge. So how do we understand that? Because we are supposed to honor prasadam. And the temple does give a lot of prasadam, and it's super tasty. So what am I supposed to do with the prasadam, right? So the interesting thing is about how prasadam acts on us, right? If you remember, Vaisheshika Prabhu says that our religion is a kitchen religion. Religion is kitchen religion, right? We start from the kitchen. We start with giving lots of prasadam to people. So when we give prasadam to people, Prabhupada always used to keep some samosas and gulab jamuns, right? And innocent people used to come there and just for the gulab jamun and the samosas, and later on they got initiated. So this is how prasadam acts on us, that, you will be given prasadam and we can indulge to a certain extent, overindulge, in the beginning. And then honoring that prasadam itself starts to purify us. Honoring the prasadam will purify us. And to the extent that, after some time, we will just eat maybe to please others. Maybe we'll eat just to, please the person who has cooked it and offering it to us with so much of love and affection. But inside it, we don't have that desire that I need to eat like a pig and, just indulge in the prasadam like that. So, Syan Mehat Sevya Vipras, when you go there and serve the Mehat, then you will get double mercy, right? Double mercy in the sense that, after serving them, they'll be happy, you'll get the Mahaprasad, right? So this is even better. Mahaprasad is better than Prasad because now it is coming through too, right? From Krishna through a devotee to us. So Prasad, and then if you serve them nicely and they're happy, then they will also give us the knowledge. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam also, we see there's a big chapter in the 5th canto where Rishabh-dev is teaching his 100 sons. And when he's teaching his sons, one of them is Bharat Maharaj, right, of Bharat Maharaj fame. So he's teaching them and he tells them that, the only way to the gate to liberation from this material world is through serving the Mahatmas. And then he says, what is the gate to hell? So he said, gate to hell is Yoshita Sangi Sangam. Yoshita means ladies, a female, right? So he says the gate to hell is if you associate with men who are attracted to women, right? Actually, they say that it is to be attracted to women, to be attracted to be close to a person or friendly or associate with a person who is fond of women is worse than associating with women. I don't know why, but it's said like that, right? So he's seriously saying that don't do that, but instead you associate with the Mahatmas. Why with the Mahatmas? Because Mahatmas have gained the knowledge. They have gained the knowledge that they are the soul. They have nothing to do with this body. And the moment you get into that situation where you know that you are the soul and you're not the body, all the other vices will go down. All the vices will go away. And this is what this verse from Bhagavatam is saying, that you serve people who have no vices. How do I know a person has no vices, or how does a person reach that stage where he has no vices? Vices is, kam, lobh, krodha, greed, all that. So all these things are related to the material world, right? So the moment you are raised to a platform where you know that I have nothing to do with the material world, then your vices start to drop, right? Like that. But then just being at that level is not sufficient, right? So what happens in our progress in devotional service is that we start from, like, you imagine, how many of you have drawn graphs when you were in school? Raise your hand, electronic or physical. Anybody drew graphs, right? So, there are two axes. What are those axes called?
X and Y.
X and Y, right? And where they intersect, what is that point called? Both, what is the coordinates of that point?
0, 0.
Right? And if you go below 0,
Negative.
then if you go above 0, you're
Positive.
positive. If you go to the left of the 0, it's negative. You go to the right,
Negative,
it's
yeah.
positive, right? So this one, there are two axes. This is the Y axis. This is the X axis, right? So if you try traversing in the Y axis, right? From south, we are going to north. So if we are below 0, right? So below 0 is a stage where you are doing things. You're doing things for yourself. Completely, I'm doing things for myself to enjoy. I just want to enjoy. And in my enjoyment, I don't care. I don't care what means I employ. What means do I employ to go and get what I want? Okay. So let me take up a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. I think it is 5.5.4. Oops. Yeah, Nunam Pramatta. Yeah, it's a very famous verse. We have done that several times in the past. It's one of my favorite verses. I'm just going to bring it up. Nunam Pramattaha Kurute Vikarma Yadindriya Pitaya Aprinoti Na sadhu manye yat atmanoyam asannapi kleshada asadeha. So what does this verse mean? Oops, why is it not allowing me to move? So here it says, when a person considers sense gratification the aim of life. Have you seen people whose aim of life is to sense gratify?
Making money,
Money?
living happily
Yes, by
is
hook or by crook, or they
kama.
try to get limelight, right? They will do anything, give statements to the press just to attract the press and be in the limelight, get many followers, responses to their feed on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, right? So people do that. So there are people whose main aim is life becomes just sheer sense gratification. Okay. So when a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body, which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, this is Rishabh-dev telling his sons, therefore, I think it is not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after the other. Right? So you get a material body, we think, okay, I'm going to enjoy the body. And then the body has sickness, body will be, if is not sick, the body will guaranteed get old. And in the end, you have to give up that body and whatever is associated with the body, right? So it is a source of, unhappiness for us. And also, it said that when sense gratification is the only aim in life, there's a very interesting thing. It said that you will engage in sinful activities, right? But look at the correlation. Why do you think one would engage in sinful activities if our aim is sense gratification?
Because everything that they are interested in are sinful. That
Material and then
But this sense gratification itself usually leads to having something which is not connected with Krishna. So we are, we are satisfying our own senses, not the senses of Krishna. So that is why this is the difference. And Mataji, another question comes up in the mind from this verse, that we are born because of our karmas, and we have to go through and suffer all those. And how will we get that sukriti that we have to indulge in Krishna consciousness, and then only our life can be purified? This sense, how will this sense come to us?
Yeah, interesting question. So, and a small correction there. So we get a body according to a karma, plus according to our desires. Right? For example, if my karma said that I have to be eaten alive, right? So I have a choice. I can become a frog and a snake can eat me, or I can become a bird and a hawk can come and eat me, or a snake can eat me again, like that, right? So, but if I have a desire to fly, people have such desires, then you will get a suitable body. So you'll get the body of a bird and you will be eaten, right? Like that. So you get a body depending on two factors which are there, right? So now the question is that how does living in that body, how do I get over this chain that is coming, right? So there are two ways. One is the longer route, and one is the shorter route, right? So we have, as long as we understand, and interesting thing, I don't know if you noticed in this verse that I just read, Prabhupada had used the word reward, that this body has been rewarded to you, right? Now, we might just think that it's a reward, but then, the word reward is also used with punishment. The judge rewarded life sentence or death sentence, right? So now, now when you look back at you getting a body is a reward, it's actually a punishment for all of us. So if you are just engaged, so it's a punishment. So why is that a punishment? Because now
That's
when
we are in Dukkha.
so that's when we are suffering our karmic reactions. When we suffer our karmic reactions, then there will be remorse. We will slowly, it might take a long time, but slowly that idea will come that I made a mistake, that this is wrong. For example, kids do, right? They will drink like 6 glasses of cold drink, and then they will throw up and they'll say, I won't never have it again. And some of them don't. They get so scared. They don't. So sometimes, all these pains that are there, they actually, once you go through that cycle of enjoyment and suffering that follows, is sure to follow, then that virakti develops in you. That detachment develops in you. So that sometimes the detachment develops from indulgence and overindulgence also. And in Narad Muni explains it very nicely in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He sometimes says that if you take desire to be like fire, right? So desire is like fire, and whatever is the object of your desire, you are putting into that fire. Okay, for example, I want to eat apples. Okay, so my desire is the fire, and here in my mouth, and as soon as I put the apple, that fire is extinguished, right? But then after some time, it will flare up again, and you have to put another apple and another apple and another apple. And these senses are so strong that originally the desire will come on a very low key, right? I should eat apples. It is good for health. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, like that. And then slowly you will get addicted to apples. And after sometimes it will be like, very precise, with precision. At 9 o'clock every morning, the body will demand apple. And then after some time, someday you are you are awake late in the night, and then the mind will tell you, let's have an apple. This is how it goes. This is how addiction starts, right? Or you're stressed. Okay, I like apples, so let me have an apple. So now from 1 apple at 9 a.m., you have gone to 3 apples at different times of the day. So the addiction will keep on going, right? So then he says that sometimes if you're slowly pouring ghee into the fire, 1 spoon at a time, the fire is going to consume the ghee and then want more. Right? That putting the ghee itself in the fire is going to make the fire go bigger and bigger, right? But sometimes even the fire is small and you put the whole ghee into the fire, what happens? The ghee itself extinguishes the fire. It's a very interesting thing. So sometimes, just by, now there's too much of ghee, so the fire is dead, right? So that way our desires also sometimes die, just like that, from that. But it's a long route because somehow or the other, lot of ghee has to come on our desires, right? For them to be fulfilled, might not get fulfilled like that, right? So one way is that, whatever we suffer. So this verse said, Nunam prabatte vikarma, when you do the vikarma. So like, for example, if a young girl wants to buy lipsticks that she cannot afford, she can go to a shop and shoplift and then get caught. And when she gets caught, then there's punishment. And after the punishment, it's like, I don't want to do. So that's one way of, getting over the desires. The second way that you get over desire, like I said, if you're lucky, that you will, by the mercy of a devotee, like the mercy of devotee, like Srila Prabhupada, who came all the way from India to USA and put gulab jamuns for somebody with a sweet tooth, right? So that those people had a desire to eat something sweet. That's why they came. Some had desire to eat something savory. So they had a samosa like that. So Prabhupada catered to them. But slowly, that had a purifying effect on them, right? So sometimes what happens is that they might get some knowledge. They might just hear a lecture. They might just, to get some college credits, get into some class. For example, I've seen students do that. They want to pursue a particular line, like engineering or something like that. And then the college requires them to earn certain number of credits, like for the course credits. And they say like, oh, well, I'm studying computer science. That's going to give me 35 credits. And that's going to take, like 16 hours of my day to work, but I still need to get some credits. Okay, let me go and enroll in a Bhagavad-gita class. Let me go and enroll in a religion class, religions of the world class, and things like that. So the purpose was they were not seeking God. They were trying to seek their credits, but, somehow or the other, they had what is known as Agyat Sukriti. Agyat Sukriti is that when you do some good to somebody else without knowing it, you do it. For example, you are struggling at the airport and, initiated devotee, and somebody, the passenger behind you on the line, just lifts your suitcase, or behind you on that rail from where you pick up your luggage. He helps you. He doesn't know that you're a devotee, but that is, he gained sukriti. That is agyat sukriti. So think about the sukritis when these kind of sukritis, these kind of good things happen, and you rake your brains as to why is it happening? What did I do to deserve it? When people ask that, what did I do to deserve this? This is agyat sukriti. So sometimes just through the mechanism of agyat sukriti also, you will, so agyat sukriti, mercy of a devotee, these are faster means of getting over the devotional service, right? You could also go and learn on your own. Some people are just inquisitive. Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna. Right? So the inquisitive come there and then they get smitten by Krishna. Right? Because once you get into knowledge, you like it. Then you like it more and more and more, and you read it more and more and more. Right? Like that. So ultimately, when you have strong faith in God, then all these negative things are going to go away. The karmic reactions are also going to go away. Right? We have this famous verse in Brahma Samhita that says, Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. So by doing devotional service, all your sinful reactions get dried away. So when you go and do bhakti, so that's the answer of Bhagavad-gita. Sarv dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Right? Abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender unto me. That's what Krishna is saying. Right? But then what we do, we are like the Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritano arjuna. Arto means when we are in distress. So we'll run to Krishna when we are in distress, right? And then when the distress goes away, then we also move away from Krishna, right? Yeah, I'm not able to do devotional service. I'm not able to get up in the morning. I have to sleep late in the night. I have to adjust to this and that, right? And then some trouble comes, and then like suddenly there's Krishna. Oh, no, I'll get up at 4 o'clock and I'll chant my rounds at 4 o'clock. And then the distress goes away like, oh, fine, yeah, let me sleep 2 hours more. Let's get about 6 o'clock, like that. So we keep on doing like that. But nonetheless, whatever it is, once you have pure Shraddha, strong Shraddha, then, all these desires will go away. Karmic reactions will all automatically die down, right? And in this verse also, we are talking about knowledge, right? So he's saying that you get the knowledge. This knowledge is very important. So why is the knowledge important? Prior to that, he was also, in this verse, we had also, in this chapter, we have also talked about, prior to that chapter that we're doing, verse that we're doing today, there was also a mention of sacrifices, right? Do you remember us reading about sacrifices in chapter 2? So what were some of the sacrifices we talked about? Do we remember? Go back and look at your books. Yeah.
All different kinds of sacrifices that we talked about, right? Like the fire sacrifice and
fire sacrifice one. And what do you put in the fire sacrifice?
Ghee.
As the blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Krishna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions of material activities.
Yeah, the question was, what were some of the sacrifices? Yeah, what were some of the sacrifices?
Yeah.
So what are some of the things we sacrifice? So we said we put things into the fire of
and then the incoming and outgoing breath also.
Breath, right? So so we were slowly going from the gross to the subtle, right?
Yeah.
So gross was you take some ghee and you put it, you take a banana and you put it, and then more subtle is now you start controlling your breath. And then third one, you control your mind, right? Like
by
that.
The eightfold mysticism.
It's about by these, so you do your eightfold mysticism like that, right? So he has talked about all that, about these sacrifices. And let me bring up a verse from here that I'm looking for, which is going to do the connection. So so the question is that this is a chapter on transcendental knowledge, right? And so why does Krishna suddenly start talking about sacrifice, right? So verse number 33 of Bhagavad Gita has the answer, right? After he talks about all the various kinds of sacrifices, he says here, O chestas of enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. All will culminate in transcendental knowledge, but it could be the speed could be different, the rate could be different, right? And when you'd like to indulge in that will be different, right? The situation according to Tom Prince's question. But what he's saying is that sacrifice is important to get knowledge. Now, do you agree when I say that in life, nothing is possible without sacrifice?
It's true, because without
Yeah,
sacrifice, you
yeah.
cannot even you cannot live on this planet. And then how will you even
Right.
go? What about the next life also?
Next slide. Okay. So give me an
Right.
example of sacrifices that we make in our life, starting from the early morning.
We get up early, we sacrifice our sleep.
We
get up.
sacrifice the sleep, correct, right? We sacrifice a desire to sleep, right? When you get up and take shower, we sacrifice our laziness. I don't want to take shower, it's so cold, let me take like that, right? So throughout we are sacrificing, and you, if you start noticing, sometimes we are sacrificing also sometimes the urge to speak back. When people are behaving badly with us, we just keep quiet. So control. So that sacrifice process is happening. Or when you say, I'm not going to eat, I'm just about full, and I'm not going to eat that next morsel of food. You're sacrificing. So there is sacrifice that happens throughout. And of course, there are those gross sacrifices also. A mother might sacrifice, or father might sacrifice the salary, not buy anything for him, spend all in the family. So those kind of sacrifices, gross sacrifices are always there. But then there are subtle sacrifice also that happens that we are doing throughout the life, throughout our day, right? So slowly, and it's an interesting connection. And the way transcendental knowledge is imparted is a different way, and it's difficult to see that connection also. If you're looking at things in the material world, right? Like how can somebody forgive if foregoing eating food every Ekadashi? How can he get transcendental knowledge? It doesn't happen that if I don't eat food on Ekadashi, then I get Pandit in chemistry or in calculus. It doesn't happen in the material world, right? But the spiritual world is different. Spiritual knowledge is different. The way knowledge, because why? Because spiritual knowledge comes from the descending process. Somebody has to give it to you. Anybody who's happy with the activity you did, and whatever that activity was, if they were Jnani, so that's why they say, you serve a spiritual master, Jnani na Tattva Darshina. They know the truth. You just have to please them, they'll give it to you, right? And if they are pleased by the fact that you didn't eat on every Ekadashi, you will get the mercy and you'll get the knowledge, right? If they were just pleased because you were serving humbly, you were sweeping the temple, you will get it. Even though you are the janitor, you will get that knowledge. You will start spouting Sanskrit verses, even if you don't know the language, like that. So that's how the spiritual knowledge, so the spiritual world is very, very different from that, right? So what I was saying was that in this particular chapter, it is aptly named as transcendental knowledge because, and I just wanted to bring this to your attention, that Krishna is talking about knowledge only. Although he talks about sacrifice, but again, he has got knowledge at the back of his mind, where he's saying that because by the act of sacrificing, you will gain the knowledge. Okay, and then there were some very beautiful verses which I'm going to bring up again here, which talked about that. When you are armed with this knowledge, right? And which Vachana Mataji had also quoted a little while ago. She was saying, as a blazing fire turns to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. And so this one is a very strong and a powerful statement, because this is saying that all reactions are burned. Burnt means burnt. When you burn something, like if I take a piece of paper and I burn it, you cannot make the paper back again from the ashes, right? If I take a piece of paper and I tear it into like 10 pieces, 20 pieces, I can still sit down with the tape and I can still glue all of them together and get the paper back, and I can read what was written. But if I burn it, it's really, really gone, right? So he gives two examples here that, one was that he was using the transcendental knowledge as a boat, right? And in the previous verse, he had said that it's like a boat, and using that boat of transcendental knowledge, you will cross over this ocean of miseries. And the second one was that this will burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. And of course, only when all the reactions to your material activities, only when all your karmic reactions have been burned, then only you'll be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. Otherwise, you'll stay here again and again, habu dubu, going up and down in this material world, right? So that was 37, 38 verses, and he's talking about who is going to get the knowledge. So a faithful man. And in the context of faith, we also started to talk about doubt, right? I said that, who doubt that people who doubt the revealed six do not attain God. And it's a very interesting thing that there's doubt. And what is the opposite of doubt?
Doubt.
Hmm?
Undoubted.
Having faith.
Faith, yes, exactly, right? So opposite of doubt is faith. But there was something very interesting that we talked about doubt. Last time we talked. Is it good to doubt?
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
To know.
Correct.
It shows intelligence.
It shows intelligence, exactly. Right? So doubting, it's a function of the intelligence. It's okay that that a doubt is raised, but when a doubt is raised, we should get it clarified as soon as we can. Right? Reach out to the right authority, and then you get the doubt cleared. Okay. So there is Shraddha, right? And then there is doubt. So there is faith. Okay. So very interesting thing is that in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and other scriptures, they talk about people at different levels of progress in devotional service. And of course, Vaisheshika Prabhu had many years ago, he'd given us a very nice formula. He says, your progress in Krishna consciousness is directly proportional to your desire to hear Krishna Katha. So KC is directly proportional to KK. That was the formula he gave us all. So that shows, that we can always check and see. Are you really interested in listening to Krishna Katha, or would you rather listen to some other gossip, right? And there's so much of gossip on the internet that we can read and spend hours in that, right? So there is faith. Right? So people will have faith, but just faith is not enough. You also need a little bit of a knowledge to go. And the interesting thing is that in the beginning, so here in the Bhagavad-gita also, he's saying that, you get some knowledge, you'll have faith. But then if I don't have faith in anything, I won't want to read it, right? If I don't have faith that this thing is going to be good for me, why would I study medicine, right? If I don't think that, reading mathematics is going to, if I don't have the faith that reading about mathematics is going to do any good to me in life, why would I want to read it? I will not want to read it. There has to be some faith, right? So if you have faith, you'll get knowledge. But then it says that if you have knowledge, then you'll have faith. So it seems to be contradictory thing, right? There's a chicken and an egg situation. Which one is supposed to come first, right? It doesn't matter. In the beginning, you might just have a little of either one of them. A little bit of the knowledge, you have a little bit of the knowledge will, kindle the curiosity in you to learn more. And from that knowledge, you will get faith. And from that faith, you'll get more knowledge. So they kind of go zigzag like this, each supporting the other. Or, in the beginning, you might have just faith. I just have faith. I don't know about God, but I have just faith. That must be something good. So many people go to the temple, churches, mosques like that. Must be something good. I have some faith, so I start going there and start listening. And the more you listen about Krishna, the more you will know about his power, about his strength. And so the more you will be in awe of him, respect for him, you will understand and you will surrender more to him the more you know about it. So that's why, in order for you to also have your faith strengthened, you should also know, right? For example, if I know, if I need 500, if I'm in a very bad situation and I need $50,000, right? Now, I need to know where I should go. Should I ask Vindhyavali? Should I ask Sutapa? Should I ask Varshana? Should I ask Kumala? Or should I go to Namazia? Or should I go to Ankur? Right? Where should I go? Right. But if I have been hearing about it and I know, oh yeah, this person works in, Google and salary itself is so high. And then, and I know that he's a very, he or she is a very compassionate person, gives when you ask, is very willing to help those who are in the need. I've heard so many things about him and I know that they have a rich bank balance. See, I got that knowledge. Now I have got the faith that they will help me. So I will go to them. So then I will be more willing to have a relationship and get into a relationship with them in the sense the borrower, the lender relationship like that. So it's important for us also to know about Krishna, right? So it kind of goes this way and that way. And then the more that you know about Krishna and the more that you know about yourself also. So we start on the y-axis. We start on the y-axis at the lowest level where we are just doing things for ourselves and we indulge in sinful activities. We don't care. I'm just thinking about it. Then by some mercy from here or there, somehow or the other, maybe I'm born in a good family. Yes, I want to do sense gratification, but I want to do sense gratification in the formal and the proper way, following the Vedic injunctions. Right? So if I'm doing that following the Vedic injunctions, then what I have done, I've gone a little bit up on the y-axis, but I've still not reached zero. Right? So I'm still in the material consciousness. I still think that I'm the body. And I know that, if I do things the right way, then this body suffers less. If I do things the wrong way, subsequently, because of the knowledge I've got, I know subsequently I'll be punished. So better I stay on this right side of the law, but I still want to enjoy. So it's more about I, me, my body, right? So you're in the bodily conception of life. And then, at some point in time, you start getting some gyan, you start atma gyan. So there is, you reach that stage, the zero, that I'm not this body. So the bodily conception is completely gone to zero, right? I am a spirit soul. But then at that origin where the X and the Y meet, at that point, you are at a level where you know that you're a soul, and that's about it, right? But then as you go up on the X-axis, on the Y-axis towards the positive side, that's when you start to know about Krishna and also about your relationship with Krishna. And then, so from a material existence to a non-material existence, which is like a zero, I have no shape. So that's where the Gyanis will lead you. So there's Karma Kand at the bottom, and then Karma Kand will elevate you to the Gyan Kand level. After getting knowledge, you'll know, okay, I'm a soul, but no form, because the body is dropped, so no form. So from a material consciousness to a zero consciousness, which is spiritual, to a consciousness which says that, okay, I have a spiritual body also, and I have a spiritual body, and in that spiritual body, I have a spiritual relationship with Krishna, right? So that is the progress that people can take, those who are at the bottom level, right? But in a particular lifetime, when we are born, we could be born as at any of those points on the y-axis. We could be at the rock bottom, we could be very high also. And then the idea there is that ultimately we find our relationship with Krishna, right? And to get that relationship with Krishna, doubts have to go away. And we had said that doubting, and we had seen last time that Bhagavad-gita started with doubts, right? Started with doubt, with, where we said that Dhritaraj had doubts whether he's going to be able to, his sons are going to win the war or not, because he was doubtful about the place where the war was happening. He said, oh, they're fighting in Kurukshetra, that's not going to happen like that, right? So let's look at, so that was the background to this particular verse. It's important for us to understand this fourth chapter in the context of, why is sacrifice being mentioned, and why is this being mentioned? And, Bhagavad-gita is all about, devotional service, but we have to understand that Krishna is trying to wean Arjun, away from the back of the chariot where he has gone and he's sitting, and he wants him to really come up and he wants him to really fight, right? So in the verse number 41, these are some verses where he's going to give the instruction to him. Now, here's something to keep in mind is that this verse, as Krishna is going to tell him, is going to implant some doubts in his mind. And so if you start looking at this verse in the Sanskrit part of this verse, it says yoga sanyasta karmanam, right? Yoga sarmasya karmanam. So if somebody just looks at the word yoga sarmasya karmanam, right? So I can sanyasta karmanam. Sanyas, I know, sanyas is to give up. Karmanam, work. Yoga. So I might just think that, oh, so Krishna is saying that, and Arjun thinks that like that. Krishna is saying that I should give up all work. And by the way, this is what he has been trying to do since chapter 1. He's already gone at the back of the chariot. He's sitting there. He does not want to fight the war. He does not want to fight it, right? So he's interpreting this in the wrong manner. The second verse also is going to confuse him, and that will lead to him asking a question in the 5th chapter, which will lead to karma yoga, right? So this one is transcendental knowledge, right? So let's go back and look at this verse again, where he's talking about yoga sannyasa. And this also emphasizes the importance of having a spiritual master. Because who is a spiritual master here? It's Prabhupada, right? As a Shiksha Guru who is explaining the words. He's saying yoga is by the devotional service in karma yoga. Sannyasta, one who has renounced. What karma nam? He's saying he has not renounced the actions. What he has renounced?
The fruit of the action.
Fruit of the action. See, that is the key thing. And by what? By knowledge. And so this is very important. He says that, and why these two things are going to come? Because one thing is that we have to become a person in real knowledge is the one who does not do any sense gratification, right? So when we are focusing on the results of our work, right? So fruits of action, when you're focusing on the fruits of our action, why are we focusing on the fruit of action? Because what's in it for me? What gain am I going to get from this? If I do this, am I going to be able to enjoy or not, right? Like that. So that focus is still there on enjoyment part of it. So he's saying that you have to renounce those fruits of action. And why will you be able to renounce those? How will you be able to renounce these fruits of action? Then you get that by knowledge. And what kind of a knowledge will help you destroy these kinds of tendencies? It's only the transcendental knowledge, only the knowledge that you are a soul, number one. You have nothing to do with this material body, number two. And number three, that you have a relationship with Krishna. And number four, what is that relationship? That you are a servant of Krishna, and my job is to serve Krishna, and my job is to please his senses. So once I get that transcendental knowledge, then yoga sannyasta karmana is very easy for me, and there's no need for, and that is what was there in the beginning. Karmevadikaraste, right? In the previous chapters, karmanevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. I think 2.47 is that word. So you have a right to perform your duty, but you have no right to look at the results of the action. So once you are situated in a life that you're renouncing the fruits of the action, then he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. So Krishna is telling to Arjuna. And the interesting thing is that this is a very nice reassurance, because this is the verse that should be slaying all the doubts that Arjuna had. Why? What was the doubt that Arjuna had? He was saying, Guruni Hatvanu Mahan Bhavan. How can I kill my Guru Maharaj? And Rudhira, there'll be blood stained in my hands if I do that killing there, right? But then that doubts are being slayed by Krishna. He's saying that, once your doubts are clear, Arjuna, who your real relative is, what your real relationship is, what your real duty is, what is the real work that you should do, right? Then when you are killing them for Krishna's sake, because Krishna wants them to be killed, you will be freed of the reactions, right? You'll be freed of that reaction, because he was fearing, right? If I kill my guru, then something's going to happen to me in my next birth somewhere, or maybe this birth, if I do something heinous like that. That was his fear. That was his doubt. Should I not? They are standing here ready to fight with me. Better for me to just go and beg and things like that, right? So he's saying no. So these doubts that are there in your mind, those doubts will get slayed, right? They will get slayed. And then you won't have any reactions. So Prabhupada says here, one who follows the instruction of Bhagavad-gita as it is imparted by the Lord, the personality of Godhead himself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as a part and parcel of the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. As such, he is undoubtedly above bondage to any kind of action. So you see, so first you get the knowledge, and from that knowledge actually purifies the action that you are doing, right? The action that you're doing. So something important to note over here is, because the chapter on karma yoga is going to come, and karma is going to come, and people talk about duty and about, the importance of doing work. So here we are not saying that you don't do your work, that you don't do your duty, right? But sometimes people just say work is worship, right? Work is worship. So now, is work worship? If working is worship, so who is the best worshiper? If work is worship, then the best worshiper will be the donkey, because the donkey does the most work, right? The master makes him do work from morning till evening. He's working. He's the best worshiper, right? So that's not the case. The work becomes a worship when you work for Krishna. This is very important thing. When you're working for yourself, then it is not, right? Now, sometimes you might be in a situation in life where you have to work and take care of your family, right? And you're not 100% working for Krishna. It's okay, because you are situated in that ashram and that situation in your life that you have to work, you have to earn. But again, At every time that you're doing, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhacha. So Krishna also tells Arjuna that whatever you're doing, whatever time that you're doing anything, you think about me, and then you do your work. Right? Even if I have to go teach, if I have to go and write software programming, if I have to go and cook, I have to do accounting, I have to do whatever, sales, business, whatever I have to do, take care of the home, whatever I have got to do that with Krishna in your mind, right? And if you cannot, like if sometimes a person could be placed in a very bad situation. For example, Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita chapter 18 that, according to the nature that you've acquired, you should do your work. So now what can I do? I have got a nature where I want to kill. And so I'm a butcher and I slice and dice all the time, right? So of course you can't kill a cow or a chicken as an offering to Krishna because you're all Krishna's children, right? Right? Mahadyoni aham bijam prada. So he says that I am the seed-giving father to all the species of life. So he's the father. So we are committing, sin because we are killing our own brothers and sisters. But he's situated, he's a butcher, what can he do? So in the least the butcher can do is offer a part of his salary to some Krishna conscious activity, right? That you can always do. A butcher can say, then where else can I go? Because in some places, especially in India, at least earlier it used to happen that if you were born in a special caste, you were not allowed to do anything else. You had to do that, right? If you were a person who was destined to, who was, situated as a person who washes the dishes, then they would just wash the dishes. They were not allowed to cook, right? Like that. So when you find yourself in a situation like that, then you can always give away some. And in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says that, right? Put all your mind and attention on me. And if you cannot do that, then work for me. If you cannot work for me, then give the results of your work to me, like that. So slowly, we can work in Krishna consciousness and continue our progress on the y-axis over there. So I'll stop here. Take a few questions or reflections. Anything that struck you in the class today that you're taking away with you, please share.
Mataji, may I ask a question, Mataji? Mataji, why this, the grace which Lord's mercy, which has to come in this lifetime, it comes so late that you are so old and physically you cannot do something which you really wanted to do. It gets late, you see. So, I mean, why this is all my karmas which delayed the whole process?
Again, like I said, it's a combination of karma and desires, right? So we think that the grace of the Lord came to me at 70, 80, right? Or sometimes, a person might have a bad relationship, right? And that makes them turn towards God because now they start questioning and they understood that these material relationships are nothing. The real relationship with Krishna is to turn their face. And they might at that point realize that this is Krishna's mercy, right? But Krishna's mercy was there 50 years ago also when he got the marriage done. Like that, right? So it's very difficult to see what exactly is Krishna's mercy. And
Mataji, mercy, I feel it was there. I remember very instantly when I was 6 years old, and I felt that God is standing in front of me and Lord Rama, and they are, somehow instructing me something, or no, I don't remember that, but I remember that picture in front of me, and that mercy was there, but it didn't fructify.
Yeah, because what happens is that there are desires in the body. So here's an interesting thing. Give me the name of a serial killer or a murderer. Some story from the newspaper. I don't read much. Let's assume Mr. A. So Mr. A did 85 murders or something like that, right? So you look at Mr. A at the age of 35, killed 100, right? Now you look at Mr. A when Mr. A was 1 month old child or a 3-month-old child cycling in the air. Looking at that child, we cannot predict or say that this child is going to grow up and kill people because he's sitting there so cute and so nice, right? So what happens is that these desires that are there, where are the desires? The desires are etched in our memory. They are stored there, right? In our subtle body. The desires are there in the subtle body. The gross body has not yet grown up to a size or to a level to be able to fulfill those desires, right? And when that body grows, the man became 30 and then he fulfilled his desire. So from the previous birth, those impressions are there that Krishna is there, God is there, I should do something, I should listen to him. Those impressions are there, but then there are other things also which are there that had to be taken care of. So the body will grow to a situation, a level, so that you'll be able to do whatever you wanted to do, right? For example, you like giving donations, you like taking care of poor people and all that. So you have to reach that stage in life to be in a situation in life where you could do that. And then you fulfill that desire. So that desire got fulfilled. And then so until and unless all the desires are fulfilled, you will not be able to turn to Krishna till we have these desires. And so one goes through that journey in life like that. So that is why they say try to be desireless. It's a difficult thing to do because some of the desires are etched in my memory from times immemorial. I don't even know. So here's the dicey situation that we might just think that we are very good, very nice on a pure path. And suddenly you'll find that devotee has fallen down. Where did the devotee fall down, right? Somewhere that subtle desire was there. It fructified and came out like that. That could be one of the reasons, right? That people fall down. And so that's why we always have to be in a scared situation. Padam padam yat vipadam natesham. The more you read the scripture, you will understand that is really true. And we might just think that I am wearing a nice sweater, I've switched the heat, and I'm safe. Nothing is safe in this world. I mean, Varshana Mataji, we were there in Mayapur. And every year we take the boat to cross the river to go to one of the other islands in the Navdweep. And one day I just boarded the boat, and usually in the boat there is 1 or 2 seats which are a little lower. From there you can put your hand, and then you can put your hand in the water. And I've seen, like, for the last 10 years, I've seen devotees do like this, and they like the water, and then one of them will take water, throw it on the other people because it's Jalangi, right? One of the tributaries of the Ganges. So they do all that. Until this time, as soon as I boarded the bus, somebody showed me, hey, Shraddha-mati, look. And I saw that in the waters of the river, there was a big snake, So padam padam yavati padam. One might just think that I'm on a Tirth Yatra. This is a sacred river. I'm just, going to put my hand. It's going to be all celestial water that's going to come. There are snakes there. So padam padam yavati padam. And the biggest thing is that, so there are snakes outside, but the biggest problem is that I have the snake, they say astin ka saap, right? What do you do with a snake that has crept into your sleeve of your shirt, right? A snake outside, you can still do something. The snake has crept up here. So the mind is like that snake. Our biggest enemy is our mind. That has to be that, because it goes everywhere. It goes everywhere, yeah. And I was reading where was I reading? I was hearing some conversation, I'm forgetting where this was, but he was talking about, have you ever been in the company of other people? And so people were not responding to that question. And so the teacher said that, oh, you have never been in the company of other people. So that means that you have been alone? So one of them said, yes. He said, that means you have been in very bad company. And then suddenly I realized that, oh yeah, when you're alone, you're in very bad company because you're in the company of your
Mind.
Yeah. So that's very bad company. So that's one thing. So Varshanamati, that is how it goes. And that's how life goes. And that's how the desire goes. But always remember, that it doesn't matter what stage we take to devotional service. We can start at any stage, and we can reach also very quickly, like Maharaj Khadbanga had only very little time to realize God, and he did that, right? You can do that. People can do that. Dhruv Maharaj did it, right? Like that. All that we need to do is, and we can pray very hard and very ardently also to Krishna to help us focus our lives in devotional service, right? And there's a request that I've got here on the chat window is that Namaya Jaya's Mataji, his mom is in a serious condition, and she wants us all to pray for her mom because she's really in suffering. So we can pray to Krishna that he relieve Namaya Jaya's Mataji, who already got Sukriti by giving birth to a devotee. That itself is Sukriti. She did that and raised her well so that she had the choice to choose spiritualism as her life. So we just pray to Krishna that in this situation where she is in now to help her in the best possible way that Krishna seems fit in this situation. We'll chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra 3 times all together in unison, starting on the count of 3. Okay. 1, 2, and 3. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare
Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare
Hare. Thank you for considering our request, and thank you, dear devotees, for praying. Okay. Any other questions or comments? It's 7:19, past Vindyavali's sleeping time.
No, I won't sleep till noon, 12 o'clock.
Okay.
I can be there till 12 o'clock with you.
What do you say, devotees? Meera Mataji is also here. Awesome.
Yeah, I really liked when you were giving the example of devotions, how even when a person is in a position when they cannot fully do Krishna conscious activity, and you gave the example of the butcher, he had to do that work, but how he could still donate something to Krishna consciousness every month or something like that. That really was nice to hear for people who really are stuck and still want to move on.
Move on the light. Yeah. And in Bhagavatam, actually, in the, I think, 2nd canto, 3rd chapter, verse 16, where it talks about Ayur Hariti Vaipumsan, it says that with the rising of the sun, every day is lost. Our Ayur Harati, Ayu means life. So our life is reduced with every rising sun, right? Because we have got only so many sunrises to see in our life. That's destined. And so in the purport, Prabhupada explains that, but and of course the verse also says a little bit that, but you engage yourself in devotional activities, then you don't care whether the sun is rising or whether the sun is setting, like that. And but then how you live your life. And there he talks about donations, and it was very interesting to note. He said that if whatever that donations that you give is guaranteed to come back to you.
Mm.
Yeah.
So whatever you give, so you give somebody $10, it will come back to you $10, right? But then depending on who you give it to, there is a factor also, multiplicative factor also. And so if you give donations to somebody who is engaged in doing, like to a person who's a pure devotee, then it comes like, millions of times back to you. So that's a nice formula to keep in mind. And yes, Namaste Mataji, you can definitely chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra to your mom in a ear. That's a good thing to do. And especially, when people are leaving, if they think that their near and dear ones are leaving, and not that Namazia's mom is leaving right now, but we can get some Ganga Jal. You get that in any Indian store, Ganges water. You can also get it from the temple or ask any devotee, they will have that. Sometimes we put that also and touch that and touch a tulsi leaf to the mouth. So that, even if they have not done anything in their life towards Krishna, again, not saying that your mom didn't do that, I'm just generally giving instructions. Even if somebody didn't do anything like that in the life, but at the end and at time, if they have somebody there who's making all these nice arrangements, keeping a transcendental atmosphere around them, making sure that sacred Ganges water is there, which is transcendental water, and in any case, bringing in the Tulsi, which is a devotee of the Lord, keeping all these nice things around, then the consciousness of the soul changes at the time of death. And yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajyantante kalivaram. Right? So whatever is the consciousness at the time of death, that consciousness we get. And it's a painful milestone to have in our lives when we leave, when our near and dear ones leave. And especially I'm noticing at the age that I have reached in my life, I'm just hearing about, my classmates dying and some aunt that I knew dying and things like that. It's becoming a very routine thing now. So it's a painful thing. You get pain every time that you hear that. It's a painful thing. But we can only pray to Krishna that while being separated from our near dear ones is painful to us, death is painful for everybody. And unless we are very evolved souls. So we can always pray to Krishna to let the person leaving the body handle the transition in an easy manner, and for Krishna to help them do the transition like that. So, and then even after they are gone, we can still pray for them for the rest of our lives. We can always do that, right? Keep them in our prayers. And that's the best gift that we can give. And actually, when we come to situations like that in life, that's when we realize, for example, when my mom was passing away, I had come to USA for the first time. And the first time that I returned back was when she died. So it was I had just come to USA for some little while, and then I had to quickly rush back and see her. And I didn't think that she was going to die. And so I had bought some clothes for her, but she was so sick that she couldn't put on the clothes at all. And so finally, when she died, I asked my sister, Vidyavadu, who might be there, watching. So I asked her that, what should I do with that? Should I put it on mom? So I was still very materially attached, right? I bought a fantastic gown from the United States of America. And how can my mom die without wearing it? So like, can I put it on her body? She said, don't do something stupid like that. Give it to somebody who can use it much better. And she has no use for your gown. So that was an eye-opening thing that, that whatever you did for your mom, which I know that my sister did a lot more than I ever did. She served her selflessly for many, 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 all the years of her life, actually. So those are really gifts that you give, and the best gift that you give to anybody is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Mhm.
You're chanting it in the ears. That's the best thing that you can do.
Actually, today is exactly 1 month. My mom passed away on the 3rd January. So it was hard to see her go. I was there all night. I just took her to ER. I thought she couldn't breathe. All of a sudden, she just couldn't breathe, and she had pneumonia. I didn't know. 2 weeks ago, she was in the ER, but everything was fine then. But in 2 weeks, her condition was really bad. So anyway, I was really, I didn't think she would live. Her heart rate got so high. She kept on saying, something is happening to me, something is happening to me. And when I asked her, she goes, I don't know how to tell you. It's nothing. I don't know how to explain, but she said to me, every now and then she was more alert than anything. She goes to me, if something happens to me, or she knew if she dies, she goes, do something very simple. Don't take too much of time or do something complicated. And then when she was dying, her heart rate was so elevated. And there were about 10 or 12 doctors and nurses and staff in the room. I just couldn't even speak. And she hugged me really tight. She managed to sit up, hug me, lay down, and she was I didn't even realize she was gone, but I was saying Maha Mantra all the time, as much as I could. It wasn't easy at that time.
It's not
And
easy.
then I couldn't say it. I just started to saying Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And then I look at her because the staff was telling me that they were going to take her to ICU. They wanted to do resuscitation. I said, no resuscitation, because she was too weak. She would have been, even the doctor at the end told me that she could have suffered more if we did the resuscitation. She would have survived, but would have been in a very bad position, most likely. So she was, I go, oh, look at her. Something is happening to her. Her eyes just rolled up. And she was gone. I didn't realize she was gone. I said, something is happening to her. And then somebody told the doctor to tell me what just happened. And my daughter was just coming up because they didn't allow two people to stay all night. So I said, just let her come, tell the guard to come. And she came. But my mother was already gone, but her body was warm for quite some time, actually. And then it was very hard, like it's not easy at all. And I was thinking in Bhagavad-gita, when you read how small is that Atma?
Soul.
Yeah, soul, how small is it? I go, oh my God, she's that small now. Is she able to hear me? Is she able to think, see us, what we are talking? So every day, I actually, now that I have asked for the shelter from Guru Maharaj, my goal is to read Prabhupada's book for 30 minutes a day and to read a chapter of Bhagavad-gita each day. But those days I couldn't do it. I just turned on the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad-gita on TV as much as I could for the first 13 days. Even after the whole of January, I tried to do that. And it was praying for her just intensely came so automatically. And I just want to cry so much. This is a very painful situation to go through. I think for both the person departing too must be hard.
It's harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of things, and that is that it's very difficult for the soul to leave the body. And Saraswati explains, Goddess Saraswati explains that the soul has to be yanked away from the body. And we read about that in Srimad Bhagavatam to Ajamil, when the Yamdutas came and they were pulling the soul from the body. So when they pull the soul from the body, the soul is attached to the body by the attachments. Every attachment that I have, like I'm attached to my car, to my son, to my daughter, to my pen, to my dog, to my book, to my image, to my whatever that I'm attached to, each one becomes like a string, like a thread that attaches you. So you can imagine if there is a thread that is connecting you to the body and you yank it, out. So they do say that it is painful for those, but not for the devotees. It's a chance that they'll meet God. So for them, the transition is different. And of course, the Yamdutas don't come. The Vishnu Dutas come to fetch them. So that is one thing. Second is that for those who are going back to Godhead, then they get a spiritual body, which will be the spiritual body that they will have there in the spiritual world. So although the Atma is tiny, like 1/10,000 of the edge of the hair, but then the spiritual body can be big. We don't see it like that. And then even if they're not going to get a spiritual body, even if they get, if they're going to come back to this world, then they get a different body. So what leaves the body when the soul at the time of death is not just the soul, but the subtle body also leaves, right? The mind, the intelligence falls. So that is also leaving, unless one is liberated when all that is dissolved. But so that leaves, but then that is not sufficient, because with that mind, intelligence, and that, you're not able to fulfill your desires. Like what Varshana Mataji was asking, and I was telling her that there are desires and the body has to reach a level and be of a certain type of a body to be able to enjoy those tendencies. So all those desires could be there, right? And then, so the soul then also develops what is known as a pret body, right? And it takes some time to develop, about 13 days. And at which time we try to offer whatever was favorite of the soul, because then they take that offering through the pret body. And then it goes on to its own journey, where it will go to Chitragupta, where they will see everything that they did in this life will flash back in front of the eyes, and more as a, oh, let's do a recap of what I did in this life. Was it good for me? Was it bad? And then the soul will also, sit down with Chitragupta and decide, okay, now I have done this and that, and now for my devotional progress, what sort of a body I should get? Because according to a karma, there could be a variety of bodies I could take, right? And a variety of karmic reactions that I can suffer or enjoy. So the soul decides that together. And then they come and live there. So, yeah. And the second thing is that there is pranavayu. So we were talking about pranavayu, right? The different kinds of pranavayu which are there in the body. Pran, apan, saman, udan. And I was also talking about different pranavayus that, opening and closing of the eyes and things like that. The growth in our body also happens because of the pranavayu. So when the soul leaves the body, the pran still takes some time to leave. All the pranavayu doesn't leave, because with the subtle body, then the pranavayu also leaves, but it takes some time to leave, and it can be a long time. So that is why sometimes you notice that even after the body is dead, and if you leave the body for some time, the nails will still grow, right? So they're like, how are the nails growing? There's no soul there, because it's the pranavayu that does it. And it takes some time for the pranavayu to actually go out. So yeah, death is something inevitable. The saving grace is that we forget about it every day. Otherwise, it'll be very scary to think of that.
Yeah, it will be very hard if we don't.
But thank you for sharing that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And then you see like how Krishna arranged it. Like, 3 months before your father, when did you take shelter?
Yes, September.
September. So 3 months, 3 months, 4 months before your mom was to leave. Krishna already arranged somebody, or somehow made an arrangement for you to be taken care of, right? In an emotional way.
Yeah.
Right?
It really helped reading Bhagavad-gita, listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, it's so difficult. I appreciate that whatever on this path I am because it's so difficult otherwise for people to go through this.
Without having that succor of devotional service. Yeah. And the second thing is that, for the soul also, Krishna says in the 8th chapter, prayana kale manasa chalena. So the mind is very agitated at the time of death. The mind is very agitated, and the yogis and all, they are able to control it. So people think that I'm going to meditate. And you saw that even to speak the Hare Krishna Mahamantra becomes very difficult. Why? Because mind is achal. Mind is going and spinning in all the directions, seeing whatever is happening. So imagine to the soul how it happens, right? Like that. So it's a very normal thing. And so in such a situation, when we are not able to concentrate the mind ourselves, you did the right thing of getting the transcendental vibration from some other place. So you started the record, right, which played the prayer, the Bhagavatam reading. So that was good. Namaste, Mataji, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Mataji. I just want to say thank you for your encouragement.
Yeah, I know it's painful, but hang in there. Pray for your mom. That's the best thing that you can do. If she can listen, just keep telling her to think about God. Yeah. Think about Krishna. Yeah. Even if you start saying Krishna, those words will fall. So continue your chanting. It'll be difficult, but do that. If you feel tired, you can play the chant on your cell phone or laptop or something. Let it play constantly, 24 hours.
Actually, before taking to her ER, 2 weeks before that, my mother was not feeling normal. She kept on saying she used to sleep a lot, lie down a lot. At night, she would wake me up. I would sleep in the same room. I didn't have her in the different room because I always wanted to know, because she had dementia also. So that was a New Year's Eve. So I was alone. My daughter had gone to her friend's place, and my mom wakes up middle of the night. She goes, "Oh, Mira, turn off that light or turn on the light," or she cannot sleep. And she goes, "Something is happening to me." So what I did is I would put on the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Prabhupada saying it's a very nice tune. So that really, she would, because she would be on her normal day, if she wakes up, she goes back to sleep pretty fast. But now she wasn't able to fall asleep. And then when I put the chanting on, she would just, in a little while, she would hum along with it and then fall asleep. So that was one of the best things. That was a very good feeling, actually, when she was humming and then falling asleep. So it was very wonderful for her to listen. So I would say, Barb, should I do it again? Do you want to keep listening to it? She goes, yes.
Yeah. So that's something you can do, Namaste Mataji.
That really helped. I'm praying for your mother too, Namaste Mataji.
Yeah. Okay, so on that sober mood, let us end this conference that we have today. And remember to keep Namaste Mataji's mom in our mind today. And let's pray to Krishna, right? To make it easy to handle the situation for all of them. Om Tat Sat. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha gopremanande hari hari bol.
Hari bol.
I was just thinking about Namaste Mataji actually yesterday or day before, or a couple of days ago, because I remember when I had left for India, Namaste Mataji had said she wanted to talk to me, and I was so busy at that time. I said, I'll come back from the yatra and I'll talk. So I was just remembering, I said, oh, I had promised her that I'll talk. I haven't called and talked to her. So yeah, it's also important that we keep our promises. So I'll call you, Namaste, and I'll talk to you. Okay? Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams to those watching on Facebook and those watching us over here and on YouTube. Dandavat Pranams. Jai Shri Prabhupada.